Okay, welcome to the City Council meeting on Monday, May 4th, 2015. At this time, I will call the meeting to order. Most everybody is just about here. Come on, Russ. Short timer? Yeah. What the heck? What's going on? He doesn't care. I know. Any babies in the audience he wants to kiss? What's going on here? Okay, here they come. Ladies and gentlemen in the audience, we are waiting for Mike and John, just in case you're wondering why it's taking so long. Here we go. Here we are. And we have Father Michael Wensing from Holy Name to give us our prayer. Let's stand for this.
Psalm 106 proclaims, "Give thanks to the Lord, for the Lord is good. For his kindness endures forever. Who can tell the mighty deeds of the Lord or proclaim all his praises?" Let us pray. God of life and love, we pray for our city of Watertown. Grant us peace in our community, honesty in our trading, hospitality and warmth in our welcoming, especially this week as we welcome President Obama, integrity in our planning and civic life, that the common good may prevail and your kingdom of righteousness and justice be affirmed. And that, might I add, too, a little prayer for rain. O God, in whom we live, move, and have our being, grant us seasonable rain so that our temporal needs, being sufficiently supplied, we may seek with greater confidence after things eternal. Grant this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thanks, Father Mike. And I might suggest at your next sermon on Sunday, we had two Holy Name guys here that were both late. We might just mention that, and yeah, I'm kind of thinking that way.
We were praying for rain, too.
Okay. All right. Before we go for the approval of the consent agenda, I need to add a couple of things. The first one will be an approval of application for abatement refund of property taxes as recommended by the Cottington County Director of Equalization for elderly freeze in the amount of $477.54. The second item will be the approval of bills and payroll and an authorization to pay them. So I'd like to get a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Pardon me? Oh, I'm sorry, roll. Go ahead. I was ready to fly.
I didn't want to mess you up. You were doing good. Albertson.
Here.
Bueller. Danforth.
Here.
Manty. Here. Meisenheimer.
Here.
Riefenberger.
Here.
Roby.
Here.
Solom.
Here.
Tupper.
Here.
Wilkins. Here. Thank you.
Okay, now we get that out of the way. Now I need a motion and a second for approval of the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Randy, second by Bruce. Any questions, any other additions? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 2, approval of the agenda. I do need to pull number 12 and 13 off the agenda as we spoke about in the work session. So I would look for a motion and a second. Motion by Beth, second by Mike. Any questions on that? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. I am going to bring up just a couple things that came in the mail this week before we go too far. I just wanted to mention, I've got a little letter here I want to read you guys. This came on our letters to concern off the website. It says, "Good morning, Kim." Now, this is Kim Langerock that it came to. "Yesterday afternoon, I received a call commending the city cleanup employees. As you know, little boys love big trucks. The workers cleaning up Broadway have made a 2-year-old boy's week. He was very excited to see 3 big trucks come down his street. He was in awe when he got to watch them pick up their old couch and haul away. The main thing this little boy's mom wanted to tell us is that the workers in the trucks were very kind and friendly to her son. He was playing outside and watching their every move. The workers on the ground were kind enough to answer his questions and talk to him, while the men in the trucks waved graciously at her beaming 2-year-old. I told the boy's mom I would send on her thank yous and that you would pass it on to those involved. Congratulations, city cleanup team. Keep up the good work. Thank you. And Rob, that I seen him over here hiding behind someplace. Where you at, Rob? Did he ditch us? God, what a deal. But anyhow, thanks, Rob, and thanks to your crew. You did an awesome job. The second one I wanted to read to you here quickly. The Department of Energy and Natural Resources recognizes the City of Watertown for Operation and Maintenance Award. This came out of Pier. The South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources, the DENR, announces the City of Watertown's wastewater treatment system is the recipient of the 2014 Operation and Maintenance Wastewater Treatment Award. This award is for outstanding operations of the wastewater system and environmental compliance with its state surface water discharge permit during the past year. The award was presented during the 2015 South Dakota Water and Wastewater Association held in Pier. And this goes to Mike. Is he around, or did he ditch us also? What's the deal with that? Here, we're trying to be nice to these guys.
Still trying to find Mike.
But anyhow, congratulations to Mike and his crew. They also did an awesome job. So I just think that's really great when these guys can go out and make us proud of Watertown and the work that they're doing. So there you go. All right, let's move ahead. Number 3, we got John in the audience. Application for a name and location transfer of a retail on-off sale malt beverage license from Rock McGilvery Inactive at 72 Paradise Drive to D&M Entertainment, Inc., doing business as Silver City Casino, 22 9th Street Southwest. This is a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing. If there's anyone that wants to speak in favor of or against this, this is your opportunity. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I will look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Bruce, second by John. Okay, is there any questions that we have on this? Is the one that was brought to us last week, and there were some questions about the casino. John, you're in the audience. Come on up to the microphone over here. Yep, right there. State your name, age.
My name is John Daigle with D&M Vending.
Yeah, pull up a chair. Okay, we're gonna just have a couple of questions. There was some questions last week or 2 weeks ago that were asked of us. They said this casino that you're going to open is going to be a smoking casino, and I guess that's the question in my mind. Is it going to be a smoking casino, John?
No, it isn't.
Okay.
Is any place on the premises, is there going to be smoking allowed?
You know, I don't pay attention to what happens on the rest of it, but what we're asking for is just to move this license to the front where it's gonna be a non-smoking casino to try some, excuse me, some of the new machines we have in our business.
Any other questions for John? Okay.
So 6 months from now, I can walk into the old one, there's not gonna be any smoking allowed on the premises.
I don't smoke.
I don't think the issue, though, is whether you
It's not
smoke.
whether or not you smoke. Is there gonna be smoking allowed in any liquor establishment within this footprint?
That's not the intention.
Okay, based on that, I don't have a problem with it, but I am gonna propose, when we get later down the evening here, that the smoking apparently has become an issue in some, I'm not pointing you out particularly, there's nothing to do about you, but there's been some casinos that there's been an issue about smoking in, and I'm gonna propose that, we have the police department surveil that more, ticket it more, and then when it comes to renewal of license, if we see a certain number of tickets issued, that when it comes time for renewal of license, that we don't renew them. And so
Or-
those people that aren't doing anything with smoking, it's not gonna be any problem to them, so.
It's not only whether or not we're gonna approve renewing them, we have that authority to ask for them to be suspended at the time too, if there's a large number of violations, so. Am I right, Stan?
Okay.
And I think, you know, it is time, and not to pick on you, John, I mean, you just happened to be the one that came up at the time, put it that way, but there is a severe problem with it in town, and I guess I am a smoker, put it that way. But the law is the law. And I think too many other people have been violating the law, and it's time to put an end to it. You just happen to be the one that were asking for a transfer at the time, so. It not only violates the law, it sets yourself up for a lawsuit if any of your employees and your customers. I mean, it's against the law to smoke in any public place, not just a liquor license establishment, so. It's a violation of state law, so.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yep.
Glad you
Thank you.
stopped up. And they will be discussing this so that it goes out to all the owners of any casinos and everything about the smoking issues, and it's got to be addressed. So we'll take a look at it.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, John.
Yep, thank you.
All right, proposed lease of the airport cold storage building to Travis Schleusner, I'm sorry. Yeah. This is a public hearing, so I will open the public hearing for this proposed lease at this time. If there's anybody here that wants to speak in favor of or against it, now's your chance. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I'll look for council action or a motion and a second for discussion purposes. Motion by Bruce, second by
Second.
Beth. Is there any questions that you have on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 5, first reading of ordinance number 1512, adding a new section 12.1013, defining security guards within and for the city of Watertown. And we've had a lot of discussion, we've had the Ryan up here and Lee's been up here talking about these particular instances. So this is the first reading, and it'll come to you as a second reading in a couple of weeks. Is there any questions on it for tonight? Okay, we'll move on to number 6, first reading of ordinance number 1513, amending the zoning district boundaries by zoning property located between Willow Creek Drive and Highway 212 to C3 Highway Commercial District. Could you just put that up for us, Sarah? This also is a first reading, but I just wanted you to be aware of what's going on. Right there in that particular area is the Morris property.
Right. The red is C3, which would be similar zoning.
Right. And they're looking at looking to sell the property in the future, and they thought the C3 would actually be better suited for them. So that will come up in a couple of weeks also for a second reading. Any questions on that? We'll move on. First reading of ordinance number 15-14, temporarily amending zoning district boundaries by rezoning Bramble Park Zoo from A1 Agriculture District to C2 Local Commercial District. And you can put that up there also, Sarah. Is there any questions that you folks have on that particular one tonight? And as I said, this is just first reading, and this will come back to you in just a couple of weeks. Okay? Any questions? We'll move on. Number 8, first reading of ordinance number 1515, amending the section 24.0703 regarding the condominium plating procedure of the revised ordinance of the city of Watertown. As you know, we kind of ran into this issue here just a few weeks ago about the condominiums and how they became platted, going through the planning commission and coming forward to the city council. This should make it a lot simpler for us, I would hope. So if there's any questions on that, Sarah, I'm sure is willing to answer any questions that you might have on that. And it is first reading, this will come to you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, the only question I had on it, and maybe I should understand this, having been on the Plan Commission and Board of Adjustment, but the first sentence says, "This section is intended to provide exemptions to city platting rules and regulations," without knowing, I mean, that's a pretty blanket statement. I just need to learn more about what that actually means between now and our second reading.
Yeah, and Sarah, if you wanted to touch on that, you're certainly.
I can give you a quick answer to that. We don't specify condo platting procedures anywhere. And by just the straight adherence to our code, we define units on a plat, lots. And so actually the definition of lot is a unit of a subdivision. And condo plats often have enough units to trigger a full platting requirement. And that isn't the intent normally. The units are rooms in a building. They're not separate lots. They're different. So we wanted to have a different exemption because we really don't want to get mired in what goes on in the building when it's being condo platted or on a site that has small condo plats. They share walls. That's not allowed in our code. So this gives us a quicker way I can actually follow the code, and we could do administrative plats.
I think it's a good idea.
I believe it is also.
What's gonna be required for somebody to be considered for this then? Just basically a normal one lot but they wanna divide that into?
They have to call it a condo plat, first of all, so that it differentiates itself from a regular standard plat. And then there are the covenants that are required by state law that we're also asking for. But essentially, it differentiates from a regular subdivision, which creates lots which meet our building requirements for size and area, and exempts them from having to meet those requirements in a condo plat. So they're calling it a condo plat. That puts it in a separate category. It has different rules.
And I believe, Sarah, that this would have to go to the Planning Commission for approval for them to scrutinize as well, would it not?
This has already been,
No, I mean, when somebody applies for a plat,
well,
for a
actually,
condo plat.
no.
They
This would exempt that.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
okay, thanks.
And
Okay,
it would
that's kinda what I was
speed up the
getting at.
process. Like we had Scott in here, it would sped it up dramatically to have that done.
If there's any infrastructure required or right-of-way platted,
It
then
does.
it would have to go to the Plan Commission.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Sarah. Hey, we'll move on. Kenny, you might as well come on up here. Number 9, second reading of ordinance number 1508, amending the section 21.6001 and section 21.6501 outside storage/parking residential uses of the revised ordinance of the city of Watertown. What I will do now is I will open the public hearing if there's anybody that wants to speak in favor of or against this at this time. Hearing none, I will close the public hearing. I will look for a motion and a second for discussion purposes.
Second.
By Mike, second by Randy. And Kenny, if you want to help us out, just quickly, tell us where we're at, what we're doing.
Well, hopefully this is the accumulation of about a year and a half of work. Putting this to an end, at least getting something on the board so we can go forward. We've had many discussions of this over the last time. I think hopefully we've got an agreement here, at least enough that we can work with. I don't know what else to say over what we've already done before. We haven't had any big decisions or discussions since the last meeting, so hopefully we can move forward. If anybody's got a question, I'll be happy to field one.
Yeah, if anybody has a question for Kenny,
Right.
now's your chance.
I think I'm comfortable with where we ended up with this, Kenny, but we still are gonna address the lake and the different zoning thing at some point in time. Is that the process that we're talking
Correct.
about?
There's actually preliminary going on already for rezoning of our entire lake into an R1L district, which would cover this at that time also.
So right now, if we approve this, does this pertain to the lake then, or?
No, it does
so-
not.
So that's excluded from this at this point in time?
Those properties adjacent On the road closest to the lake, the properties adjacent on either side of the road are excluded from this.
Kenny, what would be your changes if we pass this tonight on how we're gonna enforce this?
On how we're, hopefully, we're gonna go out for at least 3 to 6 months with public awareness. And I'm proposing maybe we'll even put together a little sticker or something where we can go out and stick this on somebody's car, vehicle, trailer, or whatever. It says, please be advised under the current ordinance proposal.
Yep.
This is parked illegally. Please contact this office to see an appropriate place to try and put this back out in the right place. We gotta give these people some time to train this. We might not even go out with on the property now. I'm not talking about on the street, but on the property, we
Yep.
might not even be until next year before we actually get out and
Yep, I agree
really
with you
spank
100.
somebody, so.
I do agree with you 100%, because I think it's gonna take a lot of public education. We're not making changes to this just so we can go out and write a bunch of tickets.
Right,
I
no,
mean,
that's
we're
not
we're
the
trying to
purpose.
accommodate the residents of Watertown,
Get
so.
an educational period in there for
Yep.
them.
Other than the part of parking on the street, parking on the sidewalks.
I
stuff like
think
that.
though we should have some kind of a timeline that says, and then along with that, if that's what we're gonna do, is we tell the police department, first time's a warning, whatever. And I think we have to have some kind of policy, otherwise it's still kind of, well, we put this out there, but it's just like, well, they're gonna get around it someday, but I don't have to worry about it right now. And
Well, I guess that's some feedback I'm hoping to help get from you
Yeah,
guys.
and
What
I'd
do you
also like to
expect?
see what, if any, what exactly is the fine gonna be, because I think when part of this whole process is, what's the outcome? Is it so much the first time, so much the second time, whatever. Other than that, I'm fine with what we're talking about, but I don't like to see putting something on and then we don't agree to enforce it, because it seems that's a waste of everybody's time.
Well, that's where we're at, because the old ordinance is just basically unenforceable, put it that way, so. We don't want an ordinance that we have to just rely on complaint basis only.
Kenny, would it be a good idea to put on GovTV, because I know everybody watches GovTV.
This is on GovTV. I see my face on there almost every night.
That shows you how much I
You're
watch GovTV. No, the other thing might be an insert in the utility bill. The mayor told me to tell you that.
We can certainly come up with a couple of proposals and try to get the awareness out.
And then a contact, where do they call if they have questions?
Us, yep.
You?
I think a sticker part or something like that, or a little note or some kind of where you're gonna drive around, you're gonna see it. Let's put a little note on there so the person knows how to contact somebody and say, well, what can I do? Here's my piece of
Absolutely.
property.
That's what we want to show them, what their options
Here's my
are.
piece of property, what options do I have?
Yep.
Is it gonna work for 100% of the people? Absolutely not. I mean, it's just unfortunate that it's not, but we gotta make it work for the majority of the people, so.
I have a couple issues with what's being proposed. Specifically, I think we're gonna get storage on the driveways, so you all know I have an issue with that. That being said, I do wanna thank Ken and recognize him for all the work he's put into this. This is one of those issues that just can spin out of control and go round and round, and Ken's been hanging in there. I appreciate what he's done.
Oh, I've had a lot of help from staff too, though, so.
I do have a couple issues. I do have one question, and I know a lot of you aren't a big fan of letting something protrude out from the front of the garage on the side. I think the biggest thing is we want to get people to get their campers and whatnot out of the driveway, and we're limiting what they can put next to their garage. Some of their garages aren't deep enough, and they have fences and whatnot running off the backside of their garage. And they aren't gonna be able to get their campers back far enough, and I still think that we should have about 8 feet, 10 feet, whatever it would be, on the side of the garage that they can protrude out from the front. If you drive around and look, somebody's got a 24-foot garage and they got a 30-foot camper, what are they gonna do with it?
Yeah.
If they got a fence coming off the back, if they got a shed, if they got patio, whatever it is, there's just not gonna be enough room there.
Go ahead, Kenny.
Hopefully, that's why we're gonna give them 6 months to make those kind of arrangements, to do something.
I guess I,
Well,
Okay.
but the object is get them out, they could park it out on their driveway, but the object is to get it off the driveway. I think we wanna encourage everybody to get them next to their garage or off the driveway, and this is not doing that.
If it's going 10 feet in front of the garage, it's the same as being in the driveway then.
No, not if it's next to it, they gotta be back flush with the front of the garage, correct?
Now, under the proposal, but now, aren't you trying to remove that so they can be at least 10 feet in front of it?
Yeah, be at least 10 feet out, 8, 10 feet, whatever it would be.
what,
John, and I'm probably one that's gonna be the most
Yep.
adamant that we don't do that, and for a couple reasons. Number one, if I'm trying to enforce that, is it 8 feet? Is it 10 feet? Is it, I can drive by and visually see something very close to flush, okay? And the second thing is that you got a 24 garage, you got a 24-foot garage, and they've got a 26-foot camper. So we say they can go out 5 feet or whatever. Then the next person has a 36-foot camper, and that don't work. And they got a 40-foot camper. So you're never gonna hit that target. You really aren't. I drove around today and I looked at places specifically looking for the side parking and this issue. And I'm not gonna say in every case, but most cases, they could either, if there was a fence there, they could move their fence back, open it up or move their fence back. Or they had a pad, they just have to move it back. So I'm all for, I think one thing that's absolutely critical is the ability to enforce this and to enforce it easily. If it's not easy, then I don't think it'll be enforced.
You have about 6 of these items in here that are gonna require a tape measure. And you got 4-foot setbacks, you got 25-foot clear view, you got 12-foot from the property line. What's the difference whether you have 8-foot protruding out from the front of the garage?
So is 8 foot good enough for today, but somebody gets,
Well,
so the guy needs
is-
8 foot today, and next year he buys
Is-
the camper, it's 4 foot longer, so now we should make it 12 foot?
Is a 25-foot clear view triangle okay today? You know,
John, we're
All
looking
these
at,
figures have-
we're looking at a 25-foot clear triangle. Forget the whole issue of campers. We currently have a 15-foot clear view triangle, correctly, at our intersections?
Mm-hmm.
And we're looking to open that up to the 25 feet. Because
I
with
know, I
the,
just said
so
no,
that's
I
it,
know-
outside of this whole ordinance, it's outside of that, John.
yep.
That's a whole safety issue unto itself with the speed limits that are on our roads.
I guess,
And so to keep that area
All
open,
all I'm doing is giving everybody the opportunity to get them off their driveway and do everything they can to get them next to their garage. And the other thing with that is, because I know none of you guys are gonna probably go for that, but what is the front of the garage? Is it the overhang? Is it the garage itself? Is it the tongue of the camper? Is it the front of the, what does that equal?
To me, it's gonna be the wall and the furthest most point of the camper. It'd be the tongue, whatever, so.
Okay.
I guess to go back to what Randy said, and I understand all these different things, because I like the way we have it too. And I know at one point we said, we gotta get something out there. We've gotta get going on it. We can make modifications. It has to be enforceable. And I think with the sticker idea and, okay, you're out too far, call city, find out what we can do. You've got 6 months or whatever. I'm hoping, John, that some of those kind of things and some of the other things that Mike was talking about, this is our window. That's our opportunity, is by having that. And, because it isn't going to work for everybody. And so by having a place people can call and a place to help them problem solve, I'm hoping it won't have as dramatic of an impact as some people could,
And we will track these, so by the fall, maybe even we can come back and say, okay, here's where the issues were. Does it need to be tweaked before next spring even, so.
Right, so maybe that becomes something that.
Again, we still just gotta get something out there to work with.
You made the comment earlier, we've been working on it a year and a half, and I think if you really, comment you made to me a long time ago, you've been working on this for 12 years.
just an interesting observation. I had to go around and for running for council, had to get my petition signed. And I intentionally went around to people that I didn't know or people that I knew might have something to say about the parking ordinance because of boats, campers, and what they do. And there were concerns expressed by a number of them, but as we talked about it, when I left there, they were very, very much in favor of what we're looking to do. And that's a small sample, but it was an opportunity to hear from people that if they didn't like it, and
I think.
I never
a
got
couple of
somebody
the
that was
biggest-
adamantly against it.
I think a couple of the biggest things that we're gonna walk away with on this is that you aren't gonna have the camper sitting out in front of the house on the streets all year long. You're not gonna see that.
And over the
You're not-
sidewalks, yep.
Yeah, you're not gonna see the boats sitting out there year-round. But there was also a picture sent to me today of campers that literally came in front of the garage, all the way past the sidewalk and in, down into the driveway. And that's some of the dangerous things that, and people know that. I mean, they see their camper sitting there, and they see the kids going around on bicycles and stuff around it, and they're going out into the streets. So we just need to have some common sense, how big is too big? I think, Mike, you used a comment like that a month or two ago. How big is too big for Watertown?
Well, I went by one today, I gotta be honest with you, I saw that, and there was actually 2 vehicles, and I just went, wow. I mean, they were huge, and I would, how big is too big? And that was a good example today. I wish I'd have taken a picture of that, but I didn't. But at some point, that might be something we have to address.
Driving around yesterday, I seen a camper alongside the street, pretty good sized camper, slides out on both sides, cords running out to it, hoses running out to it. Do we want a campground around every street in town? I don't think so.
I still go back to years ago when I had a camper at the house. It was only like gosh, Mike, you probably remember that, maybe a 14, 16 foot or something like that. But the kids stayed out there every night. It was fun. They had a blast. And we don't want to take that away from people. You still want to have that small town feeling, and you're going to go camping, and you need that camper. People are going to stay in them, and I'm okay with that.
I want to remind people that we're giving all of this. We're not, the stuff that's been done has been technically illegal, so we're bending a long ways. This isn't like we're all of a sudden taking away anything. We're given, I think the one thing we've taken away actually would be the street parking. Other than that, on their property, we haven't really taken anything away. We've given them a lot of opportunity. I'm comfortable with the way things are on this. I guess I would maybe suggest, because originally when we talked about this way back, we said, well, let's give them till May. Well, now it's May, and we're just getting around to approving it. I'd like to say, I'd like to put a date on it, September 1st or something, be in compliance. That's 4 months. But otherwise, we're getting into November, now we're talking winter. If they do need to do a fence thing or something, they're going to say, oh, I can't do that, now it's winter. I'd like to just set the date. And I think 4 months is more than enough for people to learn what's going on. As far as putting out any stickers or anything, I'd just like to have that part of this. I'd like to propose that we put that date so that it's, kind of in stone thing, because otherwise it's, well, you said it'd take 6 months or longer, and I'm not going to worry about it. They got to start to deal with it sometime this summer. That's my opinion.
And I would agree with that. I think if we just say we're not gonna be doing much other than just putting little Post-it notes on there all summer, then people will delay. And there's people that can conform to what the requirements are. We want them to. I did have one gentleman tell me, and he says, I'm all for it. And he's an older gentleman. And he said, but my backyard, I don't have a gate in there. He said, I can't build that gate. He said, I've already started to look into having that done. He said, but it's hard to find somebody to come and build a gate. He said, it could take me several months to get somebody to do it. And I told him, I said, well, I can personally understand that, because I had a fence that I wanted to get built on a property that I owned, and I couldn't get one done last summer. So I think where we do have a justified reason, I think we can work with those people. But just to blatantly not conform because we're giving them 3 months or 4 months just doesn't make sense to me. So I think we do need to, as Bill recommended, I think we need to put a date on it and say that's what we're going to do. And where we know or can see that there are non-compliances and they're justified, we'll work with them, and then come next spring, we hit the road running.
Well, one of the most common comments I got from people was, why are you picking on people with the campers or the boats? Why don't you go after the people with the pile of junk? When I sat down and explained to them that in order for us to be fair and be able to enforce the law, that we need to start with this so we can go out and deal with the people that got the pile of junk, because if not, we got to go down the street and write ticket at every other house. I think most people were pretty understanding of that by enforcing this and putting something in place, hopefully we can get this under control and we can work on the big eyesores, put it that way. So I think most people were pretty responsive to that. So.
Okay. Any other questions for Kenny? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Aye. I didn't hear how many were. Do you want to take a roll call on that, Shelley? Just two? Okay, just two. We should be okay. Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kenny. And thanks again for all the work you guys put into this. And I know it's a work in progress, and I commend you guys at the council level for taking the time to work on this. It was a ton of work. Okay. Number 10, authorization for the mayor to sign a lease agreement between the city of Watertown and the Missouri River Energy Services. Steve, you want to come up in case there's any questions? I will look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Beth.
Second.
Second by Mike. Are there any questions for Steve on this?
You want a general overview?
That'd be good.
Steve
Thank you.
Lehner from Municipal Utilities. The lease agreement was put in place between the City of Watertown and Missouri River Energy Services in 1977, and it's for the land across the street that the power plant sits on. And this amendment is just to change some language that allows Watertown Utilities to get their transmission lines included into a market. Western area is moving into a market, and we'll get some revenues for putting our utility lines in there so others can use it. And that'll basically offset an increase in transportation costs that we'll get when they go into that market, so.
Very good. Any questions for Steve?
So what are you saying, Steve, then that's gonna be some additional lines running back in there?
No, everything will be the same. They're just taking the language out of the lease agreement that deals with the transmission lines, because this is a grandfathered agreement, and this has to be approved by FERC and by the Southwest Power Pool, and they don't like grandfathered agreements.
Okay,
they
so,
wanna change
so
it.
technically nothing's changing, and other than we just need to fix it to,
That's correct, just language amendment, so,
So this won't affect Connie's Christmas lights over there?
no,
Okay.
no.
That's really the
We'll
big
heat 'em up
concern
again
from the,
next year.
from the finance department. That's really what she was worried about. All right.
Can we get different color ones, though?
We could.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any questions for Steve? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Number 11, consideration of change order number 2, final to the contract with McLaughlin and Schultz Incorporated, decreasing the contract amount by $6,676.20. This time I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion.
So moved.
Motion by Randy.
Second.
Second by Bruce. Are there any questions that you have for Sarah on this? All right, hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And of course, number 12 and 13 have been pulled. We'll move to 14. Authorization for the mayor to sign an agreement for professional services with Golf Course Architects LLC for design and consultant services for the golf course improvement project in the amount of $43,200. Jay, if you want to come on up here, one of the things I just wanted to mention, we were at a meeting here, gosh, is it a couple weeks ago or so, 2-3 weeks? And Mr. Norby was there, and it was just absolutely fascinating what he was looking at for the yellow course, you know, and giving ideas of what you can do and how you can design it. Not a lot of design change, I don't feel, but just the rebuilding of the greens and doing it right. I think it's a pretty good deal. So what I will do, Jay, before we ask questions, I'll get a motion and a second for discussion purposes.
So moved.
Motion by Mike, second by Dan. Are there any questions you want to ask Jay, or Jay, do you want to touch base on it a little more than I did?
Well, I guess I would agree with you. I was really impressed with Mr. Norby in that I felt he was very committed to doing a project and doing it right the first time, and quality control was of the utmost importance to him, and I was really impressed with that.
Jay, what, I'm sorry, are the greens gonna stay in the same spot? Are we just gonna rebuild the existing greens where they are?
For the most part, yes.
Okay.
They're gonna be rebuilt where they're at.
Okay.
There might be some elevation changes to make the roll and that type of thing, the roll of the ball better on the greens, but they will stay where they're at.
Can you guys make them really flat? No?
We could make the holes bigger for you.
I think number 3 is going to be back a whole new green, isn't it? 75 yards back farther.
Yeah, there was discussion on that. Jay, I got a question, and this service is for
purely the design of the greens and the accompanying bunkers, potentially some fairway bunkers maybe, right?
Right, and then
Um,
also putting the bid specifications together and coming out and doing on-site inspections to make sure that the silt and sand mix is correct when it's put down on the green.
Yeah. Well, the one thing I'm gonna ask, and I don't know if that can get included in this or not, but is there a way that, I was very impressed with this Mr. Is it Keith?
Kevin.
Kevin Norby, and very impressed with the meeting that we had. I thought he really seemed to know his stuff, and I think we should be excited to work with him. But we got some other issues on our course, and could he help us? And maybe it's included in this, or maybe we got to add a little bit or have it separately. But you know, we've got a few issues on our course that are longstanding issues, and it would be good for us, I think, to identify those issues, our top 2 or 3 issues on the course, aside from, historically, yellow greens would be one of them, but we've got some solutions coming, so that he can help us identify, you know, we know what the issues are. He can help us identify why those issues are there, if there's a remedy to them, and if there is a remedy, what is that remedy? Because there ends up being a lot of questions, and it happens every year. And I just think it's some outside eyes working with Todd and saying, okay, here's what the issues are, so we understand them. Because a lot of our issues out there right now aren't understood by the average person that goes out there and golf. And I think for us to have some assistance in doing that, and have something that's clearly outlined as to what the problem is and what the possible remedies are, if there are some, I think that would be beneficial to Jay and anybody working in Todd out at the golf course, I think, to have that so we can communicate better with our golfers. So I don't know if that's possible to get some of his time in this 43,000, or if that's something a little extra we'd need from him, but I think that's important. The greens is one thing. We got the other issues, and I think we need a more formal approach to identifying those problems and the options of fixing them if there are some. And then that gives us a better tool to communicate.
Jay, who would have the sign-off responsibility for those greens? The reason I'm bringing this up is because of, once again, past transgressions on green.
I'm well aware of.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes,
Okay.
definitely, and that's something we want to do it right the first time.
Who has that sign-off responsibility?
Well, you know, it'll be kind of a team of Mr. Norby and Kevin and myself.
So
Todd and myself.
If
I'm
something
sorry.
happened like has happened before, we would have recourse with them then?
Well, it
to
would
remedy
be
that?
The contractors that are, you know, actually getting the bids when we start bidding out the projects on the course. And I'm sure that would be written into the bid specifications.
Isn't that the biggest thing, though, the fact that he's gonna do the inspections and stuff, that we shouldn't have issues that happened in the past?
Exactly, and I know that Todd is very committed to keep a very close eye while the construction is in progress.
I'd also like to mention, Mike, too, that when Kevin, actually, they went through the whole course, all 27 holes, and it was very easy for him to spot some of the things that really needed to be done. So I think, you know, in agreement with Mike's comments, if there's some things that Kevin points out that says, you know, you guys really should do something here, we need that brought forward to us.
Real good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for Jay on this? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you.
Hang on, you're gonna be up here for a little while, I think. Number 15, consideration of the bids for the zoo fencing project. I will look for a motion and a second for discussion purposes.
So moved.
Motion by Dan, second by Randy. And Jay, you wanna just touch base a little bit on this?
Well, the zoo fencing project, we only had one bid on the project. It came in it did come in a little higher than we had anticipated, but the price increases reflect that. And with the only one bid, Dan did contact 2 other companies that traditionally bid on fencing projects here in Watertown, and they just didn't think they could compete. So they didn't put any bid in on it. And the estimate we went off of was approximately 1 year old, so I can understand that cost increases might have changed that a little bit. So we would like to go ahead with the bid so we could be in compliance with American Zoological Zoo and Aquarium Society standards at the zoo. And then we also intend to recycle the current fence that's at the zoo now to be used in the construction phase at the community center.
Okay, what I'm gonna do is look for a motion and a second for discussion on this. Do I have it already? Oh, I'm sorry. So, how about any other questions for Jay or for Dan?
Has this item been specifically budgeted for within the 2015 budget?
Yes,
It has. What was it budgeted at, Dan?
65,000.
Okay, so where are you gonna make up the $17,000?
Well, we had a carryover of $10,000, and then we have some extra money in the CIP where we can come up with the 6,400, so we would have enough money to cover the cost of that.
I will say, I think it is important element is that we will save thousands of dollars on our community center project by using this fencing, so that's a positive thing.
And it's a USDA standard too, an 8-foot fence. This is a 20-year thing that Herb did years ago.
The current fence right now is 6 foot high, and then they welded 2 feet of stub post on the top of the 6 foot post, and there's 3 strands of smooth wire right now.
What are we using? What kind of fence are we putting in the front? Is an iron type?
It's a decorative, yeah.
type?
Decorative iron, because we
Be
didn't want
nice
to
to
go
see what
with
that looks like.
It should look nice.
Yeah.
And it's also gonna be moved back approximately 8.5 feet to hopefully save it a little longer.
So the cars don't, because usually we get once a year, a car comes up there and takes part of the fence out.
Dan, this won't affect Mike's otters, will it?
No, no,
Okay,
it
good.
might.
Kinda worried about that.
Yeah, the penguins, questions on the penguins.
Any more questions for Dan or Jay? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Number 16, authorization for Cattails Crossing Golf Course to advertise for bids for a renovation project. And at this time, I will look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Bill, second by Mike. And Jay, why don't you give us some ideas here?
Basically, this goes hand in hand with the agreement that you just voted on. As we get moving forward with this project, we'll want to move forward at a fairly quick pace. So this actually is probably jumping the gun a little bit, but at least it gives us the opportunity that when bids are ready, they can go out for bids. So we can hopefully by mid to late July have some bids going out. So just kind of speeds up the process for us.
I also forgot to ask, even on the last one, this came through your Park and Rec department?
Yes,
did it
all
not?
of these have.
And they were all, I mean, what did they say?
Yeah, they were all approved by the Park and Rec Board and the Golf Committee, discussed and recommended these two.
Okay, I just want to make that clear that they had looked at it.
Right.
Any questions for Jay on this?
No, Jay, the intent is to be starting on that project middle of July, though, isn't it? So your actual bids will go in soon.
If at all possible. That's why it's so important that we get started on it right away tomorrow to get some topographic maps and that type of thing to Kevin so he can start working on it so we can get bids out.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I will look for council action. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Jay. We appreciate it. Number 17, authorization for the Upper Big Sioux Watershed Department to advertise for bids a project to include 2 small dams and related constructed wetlands. This time I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Mike, second by Bill. Any questions for Roger? Well, actually, Roger, why don't you explain it a little bit before we go for questions?
This is a pretty cool water quality project we're doing up on the Grant Cottington County line. It's a secondary tributary to the Big Sioux River. The drainage is a couple of square miles that come down through there. We're installing 2 small dams to hold water back, slow it down, with about a half a mile of constructed wetlands between the two. Some farmer benefits, they're putting in some check dams that also act as rock crossings so that he can get his equipment and animals across the creek without having to get stuck per se. We're doing this in partnership with the Lake Pelican Water Project District, and the EPA funds are coming through for this. It's a great project. We're still waiting for Corps approval, final Corps approval. But of course, we expect that at any time, and we would like to get started on that as soon as possible.
Roger, if
This
this,
is what's known as a stock dam then? I mean, if the old days, we would call it, put it in a farmer's middle of his field and slow it down.
Those are called dugouts. Well, when you dig a hole in the ground and pile the dirt beside it, those are dugouts. These are actual small dams or earthen dams. They'll hold back 6 to 8 feet of water, I believe. And they're in a series so that, also in that drainage is a couple of feedlots that if there was ever to be an accident, these dams would catch that. But they're not real big, but there's 2 of them with the constructed wetlands between them.
so their intent is to actually hold water,
Yes,
not retain it for a little bit and then,
there is both of those aspects involved with it. It'll hold standing water year-round with freeboard available for storm
for
events.
height, for back.
Roger, how much are these and what bucket are these coming out of?
These go through our 319 grant. Oh, if you've seen our budget, it splits up between city utilities, Lake Compesca, EPA, DNR. These funds will be coming through the EPA, through the DNR, and then matched with the Lake Pelican funds.
And how much is it gonna be?
Am I supposed to say that before we ask for bids? It might be a while. It's gonna be close to $180,000.
Okay, thanks.
This shows total support of the adjacent landowners and.
It's only one landowner involved with this. A family of farmers. There's 3 or 4 families living on this operation right now, and they're all for it.
Any other questions for Raj? Hearing none, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Roger.
Thanks.
Number 18, consideration of lease agreement with the Watertown School District and the Watertown Youth Soccer Association. Jay, if you wanted to come on up again. I'll look for a motion and a second for discussion. Motion by Randy, second by John. Jay, you want to give us a little idea what's going on?
Well, yes, and Stanton could probably help me out with this a little bit too, because he worked on it very hard to get this all worked out. But basically, it's an agreement between the Soccer Association and school districts, so they can just more clearly define use of fields and that type of thing. The soccer is a high school sport, and they just wanted to make sure that as they schedule games and that sort of thing, that they would have field space available. And this kind of would be the primary reason that this is all laid out. And it has been also approved by the Park and Rec Board.
Okay, is there any questions that you have for Jay? I think it's a great idea, and we know that soccer is getting bigger, 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 and with the school now, isn't it sanctioned, Don?
It is a full school sport.
Yeah.
And Mr. Mayor, I'll recuse myself. My wife is executive director of the Watertown Youth Soccer Association.
Okay. So if there's no other questions, I'll look for council action. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Number 19, any other old business that we need to discuss?
I'm gonna put it under old business. I know over the course of several years of, 4 years of being on the council and prior to that, there's been discussion about a light on the corner of 10th Avenue and Highway 81 North, just west of what would be Lincoln School area. I've had several people express concerns with that corner. Well, actually, they've expressed concerns with 14th and 81 as well, but that's going to be reconstructed when that project goes. But I think that's something, and I know that in the past they've said if we want a light there, we got to take a light out. But I will tell you that with the closure or the partial closure of that corner of 14th and what is that, 11th? I was almost late for a meeting today because I couldn't get through there.
Yeah.
I went through there twice today, and the traffic on there, because I think that's what people are starting to use, is horrible. And to try to get on that highway, when I came tonight, traffic was backed up 2 blocks to the west, and I was at the front trying to turn, and I know I had a dozen cars at least behind me.
I will tell you, Mike, that I believe Highway 81 is slated for reconstruction next year, and 10th Avenue will have a light. It will? Yes.
Can we do a temporary light on that?
You know, I
spot?
was wondering if we could, there are lights available through the DOT that could be rented. I think they're like $6,000 a week, so I don't know if that's what you want to do or not. I've checked on, yeah.
What kind of lights are these?
I will tell you, I think we're gonna have a problem
How
there.
much-
Because how long is how long is the roundabout gonna be before it's open? About 3 months?
About 2 months.
2 months? I think you're gonna have a problem there. I really do. So I'm just forewarning you that
Would
Or
it, would
maybe,
it,
It's
would
an
it make
issue.
it better if
Four-way
it's,
stop or
yeah,
something?
four-way stop? I mean, it's gonna slow
We
81
can hire
down,
a
but.
cop just to sit on that corner and direct traffic for a while. You know, one of those guys that used to be on candid camera. Tracy, where are you? Yeah, we could do that. But I mean, we could probably put a four-way up there for a while, I would think. Can you do that on that particular road, or is it too hard with the 4 lanes?
Be up to the DOT. That would be difficult to do with
Wanna
4
take that to
lanes.
your people? Maybe we can get a
Can't
good
we
discount on
ask
those
them to
lights.
help us in some manner, whether it be temporary lights or something there?
The question I
thi-
would ask, when's the last time they did a traffic count there? Because that's the first thing they're gonna do, is they're gonna look at what traffic counts you have. And I've gone through that light too, and it is getting tougher, and they may have changed. If they haven't done that count for several years, which it is unlikely, but
Well, even if it's only for the 2 months, if they're gonna reconstruct it and we're gonna get a light there, well, then the work's already done. They agree that it needs to happen, but it's gonna get a lot worse starting right now for about 2 months. So I would hope that they would work with us to do something, and I don't think a 4-way stop would be very good. I hate to
You
say
know,
that,
they
Mayor,
put
but
They put those lights out on Highway 212, you know, out by Sheehan's when they were doing that construction out there, and people really liked them. So maybe we can look into it. Maybe they relax a little bit. You'll help us with that? Perfect. We'll do that. We'll do that right away. Any new business that needs to be discussed?
Mayor, could I just one other old business item?
Oh, sure.
As long as we're on lights on highways, you know, we had a lot of discussion about the school zone over at Highway 20 in Kemp, and we never did anything there. But a lot of that was state-driven as well. But, John, I think it was your idea about why can't we at least put one of those lights up there that at least draws some attention that you are entering a school zone. That issue has not changed. I mean, so I'm thinking either some kind of a light, or maybe even it's one of those that your speed is, 35, and that's gonna be, that's a state highway. Don't know if we can get some state funds on that. If not, Sarah, can you give me an idea of what we're looking at for costs and something like that?
I want to say the Your Speed Only signs were about $2,500, I believe. Somebody looked them up. I think somebody at the police department looked up the cost of them.
Didn't we just authorize one of those? Did we just authorize the new one? Oh, yeah. Couldn't we use some, you were saying something?
They're looking
all-
permanent.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, these are permanent. When you come into like Sturgis and Deadwood, they have the signs up there. It sure catches your eye.
Yeah.
When you're coming in there, if you don't realize that you're coming in a little faster than what you thought off the highway.
They got one coming into Millbank right there, yeah.
Well, if
We-
unless there's an objection, I'd like to see some numbers on that and what that looks like, and we can talk about maybe moving it forward. But we never really did get that issue addressed. We had a lot of discussion about it, and I think that would help.
Yeah, I think back to the flashing red light that says school zone crossing or whatever, that was the one the DOT turned me down on. They said flat out, nope, don't need it, there's no numbers. So maybe this other one would be easier to get, so.
Perfect. Maybe when we have President Obama come through, we can ask him, how about this highway a little bit? Say, just a couple of things, unless somebody else has something else you want to talk about.
I do have one quick thing. Well, I don't know how quick it'll be. The softball complex, where we're at with that, with our architect and where that is, how far are we off from starting that project?
Well, we are taking dirt down there now from the Watertown Community Center that's gone down there. It really boils down to dollars and cents, how we arrive at where we're at on dollars coming in and what we've got to spend on it. Frankly, I have not heard from the architect for probably 10 days, 10, 12 days. I really don't have anything that I can say to you today that says it's gonna get started tomorrow or the next week or anything.
Well, I would hope that we could maybe have a conversation with them to see if we can move this down the highway a little bit. I mean, we've this has been planned for quite a while, and it seems like it's just lagging and lagging behind.
You know, I really disagree with that because I don't think it is lagging at all. I think there's a lot of work involved. We have Helms working on it. We have the architect firm working on it. We have 3 different firms working on that project, and we're just waiting for dollars to come back. So,
Well, can we get an update from?
Certainly.
Please.
yep, absolutely. Anybody else? I
Are
wanted to-
are we on new business yet, or where are we
Yeah,
at?
go ahead.
I got 2 things. One is this smoking issue, which we talked about earlier. It wasn't appropriate to deal with it at that because we had a separate motion, but I would like to have something on the agenda for next council meeting that we just basically make a statement as what the city policy is gonna be on the smoking. My opinion is that we do the ticketing, and at a certain number of offenses, when they come back for renewal, that we have a policy how we're gonna deal with that, whether we refuse to renew or whatever, so that there's a statement that people understand. And I think we just have a couple of places that are at issue, quite honestly, and I don't wanna pick on any one person, but I think if they understand that we're gonna deal with it, it'll take care of itself.
Bill, the policy ought to mirror the same as an underage selling or something. I mean, it ought to
I
just be the same
agree.
thing.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we need to, okay, let's all of a sudden, we're gonna send out a letter or something like this saying we're not gonna allow it anymore. I mean, it's point blank, they're breaking the law. They're doing it right in front of our nose. We need to do something about it.
Well, I think it's twofold. I think what you've got here is you have an establishment that allows it, and then you have people that are smoking.
Yep.
And if you're gonna do this, you really need to have.
You ticket
2
both.
tickets.
Yep.
Ticket
Because
the
it-
people and smoking and ticket the business, both.
That's what I feel you should do if
I
you're
agree.
going to do this.
But I
Absolutely.
guess,
All we have to do is just tell our police department, they do the walkthroughs, that if they see this, they can write the ticket.
And if there's 7 people in there, they write 7 violations. Am I correct?
Well, if they're
If they're
smoking.
smoking, yeah, yeah.
Stan, what does
Yeah.
it take for the proprietor to be ticketed? How does that work now? The individual tickets for people that are smoking, and then how does it work for the owner?
Well, we've only had one violation in Watertown that's been prosecuted and taken to trial, and it just so happened that the owner was also the person who was there at the time the offense occurred. So the owner got the ticket. I don't know how law enforcement would react, but I do know that in the case of underage selling, that if the person working behind the bar sells to someone who's underage, they get a ticket as well as the license holder. So both are issued citations in that case. It'd probably be the same as this.
Stanton, when somebody comes in and they request, we do our annual thing of the long list and individual ones that come in where we approve licenses. If we have a case where we have concerns, whether it's smoking or underage or whatever other violations we have and concerns there, and we vote to not, what's the word I want to use? Renew their agreement, their license. Do we really have the ability to do that, or does that have to then go out to peer for them to actually approve that? How does that work?
All the governing body does is make a recommendation to the Department of Revenue. They're the issuing authority. They take your recommendation seriously, obviously, but you technically don't issue the license. You recommend issuance.
Right, so we really don't have that say. We make a recommendation, and then they would have to be the ones that actually not renew the license, correct?
Correct.
And how long does that process normally take? If we say no, how long until they determine yes or no on it?
Oh, I think from the time you guys approve the license, like tonight you approve that transfer, that'll get sent out to peer tomorrow or the next day, and the answer will come back in less than a week, is my understanding.
Now, if we were to send
on a request to not renew, it's about that same type of thing?
Well, I don't know that, since I've been here for 15 years, it's never happened, so I don't know what the answer would be.
The license holder also has that appeal factor in it too, where they could appeal that finding also, right?
Correct, yeah, they have appeal rights if it's denied.
Do we have the ability to, I'm gonna use the word terminate their ability to use their license for any number of days? Like if we say they have a violation and so we shut them down, you can't use their license for 10 days. Do we have the ability to do that, or is that controlled by the state as well?
You have the ability to temporarily suspend a license, yes.
So that might be one of the tools that we use.
Well, and that's what I said earlier tonight when we were talking about it. It's not just the fact of not renewing their license. We have that authority to recommend a suspended license for, I think, is it 30 days?
Yeah, there are time limits spelled out in state statute.
Yeah.
I would tell you, you recall not too long ago that they had this sting about underage buying at the casinos. Well, I went into the Cowboy the other day and bought a bottle of sangria, and I got carded. Yeah, made me feel good, I'm telling you.
They thought you were checking them out, huh?
It was a blind woman. I just wanted.
The other one on my list is that I'd like to, probably at the next council meeting, address the, under the fees or fines, what down the road we want to do on this parking. Because we just talked about the parking thing that we approved, and we obviously won't be any fines going out, but I think for this to make any sense, people have to know what the consequences are. So I'd like that discussion to start at our next council meeting.
I think that's a good idea, Bill. Thank you. We can work on that. Anything else? A lot of stuff.
Sort of a liaison report. This weekend, I had the opportunity to pinch hit for the mayor at the District Optimist Club. I did the Welcome to Watertown on Steve's behalf in his absence. After that, the director, one of the executive officers of that group, took me aside and he said, I want you to know how much we like your facility. He said, your electronics are really good. We love the way it's set out, the building, the facility. He just couldn't say enough about the event center, and he wanted me to pass that on to everybody. And they like it so well that they're here this year. They're coming back again next year. So some good comments to pass along.
Thank you. I think that's a compliment to all you guys by stepping up and getting some of that stuff fixed up. Anything else?
I hear today my granddaughter challenging your position here.
She did. Just so you all know, Bill's granddaughter, what's her name, Tatum? I don't know.
No,
Help me out on that.
not quite. Sadie.
Oh. I had 13 little kids sitting around here, and they all went up to names, and this one went right over there, and it was Bill's granddaughter, and she says, how do you become a city council person? So I explained it to them all, and how they go through petitions and blah 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 and all the voting. She says, well, can I skip that and just run for mayor? I said, well, give me a couple years, will you? So it was all good. See, I wanted to mention, today we had another meeting. We've had about 2 meetings a week now for the presidential's arrival, and I just wanted to update you on a couple of things. There is an embargo until 10 a.m. tomorrow morning on a lot of the information, and I believe the radio will have it and the newspapers will have it in there. But I wanted to share with you a couple interesting things. Tomorrow at 2:30 in the afternoon, there will be a C-17 coming into the Watertown Airport. This is about the size of a 747, and it will be loud, and it is big. And that's going to be kind of fun to see. They've also allowed us access to the airport, so if anybody in the public wants to go out there, they'll have spaces set up for them to watch. They've also have another plane coming in on Thursday. They're pretty close. These two could change just a little bit, but Thursday between 12 and 12:30, there will be another C-17 coming into Watertown. These are the transports that are carrying the president's vehicles that will be, used to come into Watertown. Friday at 8:30 a.m., there will be another one coming in. So there will be 3 C-17s coming into Watertown. What's interesting, these guys, if you think about it, they're the size of a 747. Our little aircraft that are out here take 3,500 feet to take off. These guys need 3,000 feet. It's less space than what our little aircraft take because they're so powerful. There's a lot going on. I would encourage you to listen to the radio or read the newspaper tomorrow because there's a lot of information. They will allow people to come out and watch the president's aircraft land. He will have that out there, and it'll be very, very interesting. So read that stuff, listen to the newspaper, and I can't go much further, I don't believe, right now. All right, any questions? Hearing none, I will look for a, was there anything, Stanton?
Executive session, Mayor?
No, I don't think I'm going to.
Okay, very good.
Yep. I don't see any reason to have an executive session. I will look for a motion and a second to adjourn.
So moved.
I got a couple of them there. Shelley, just take your pick. And council action, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned.